Welcome to OSM, Operation Safe Mode. Peace be with you. I'm coming here today just to share my physical update after my 21st chemo procedure, and I want to just let you know things are going great. I feel physically well. This past Saturday I was able to, with chemo, still be able to do 2 First Communions and celebrate the evening Mass, so without any problem. Sunday was a little rough, it always is at the end of the day, but here I am still moving forward with my health, so I just wanted to let you know that your prayers are being answered, and I'm waiting for a couple more treatments before we get our next scans, so keep up the prayers. Last week I shared with you about Peter trying to return to his way of life before, instead of having the confidence to come to the shore, but first to receive Jesus' forgiveness and then his call to take care of the church. When Christ calls us into a life to follow him, it is really truly a life of the Good Shepherd that we heard in Sunday's Gospel this past week. With ordinations, with my anniversary and Father Roniel's anniversary, kind of trying to think a little bit about that being that Good Shepherd in a new way as I continue to battle my cancer and continue to try to ring the bell at the end of the day in his name. So I thought of this reading. It speaks about humility in a different fashion. None of us lives as his own master, and none of us dies as his own master. And it's kind of really a way to say that what we think we are in this world is unimportant. The things that we master in this world is unimportant, because in death, we're not the master of those things anymore. And that's where humility comes in, when we realize that the gifts that God has given us and the things that we're accomplishing that we should strive for, because he desires us to be the best version of ourselves in this life. But if we are mastering things on our own, then it's hard to be a shepherd if you're mastering things instead of leading or nurturing. So I like to think of this part of the scripture passage as, I don't want to be the master in my priesthood, I want to be the shepherd in my priesthood, meaning I want to be able to show the way by living the way. And the only way I can do that is allow the Good Shepherd Jesus to be my shepherd first. So the vision is to have Jesus leading, me following him, and then of course those that I am called to lead following me with the confidence that I am only one step away from being the sheep, and only one step away from being comforted by the master. So it puts me as a bridge between what you are and what Christ wants us to become. It puts me as a bridge to understand where you are, because I am not the master of my life, and also to help you understand that if we allow him to master us in this journey, then we really don't need to know the way. We don't need GPS. We don't need to have the rest stops figured out for us. He will give this to us on the way. The second part of this scripture passage, as you saw put up on the screen, it says, while we live, we are responsible to the Lord, and when we die as his servant. Sometimes when I read sacred scripture, I like to read it backwards, because I think sometimes the way it is written in the Greek or the Hebrew, the power of the sentence is at the end, and then it shows you how to do that. So if I read this backwards to you, to say, when we die, we are his servants, because we lived being responsible in the name of the Lord. So my definition of being a servant of Christ is not that of a slave, that we just blindly obey him, but we share the responsibility of that good news. We share the responsibility of the mission of calling others to know the truth of Christ, especially the risen Christ as we experience him here in the Easter season. So to be the servant of Christ means that I'm responsible as a shepherd to lead the people. You're responsible to lead your family. You're responsible to Christ to lead a life of truth and morality, if you will, so that when you die, you will be seen as a true servant. And a true servant at the end is one who is empty-handed and is able to receive the full benefits of being a part of the Master. The last part of the sacred scripture passage really speaks of how different we are when we are following the risen Christ. What do I mean? When we realize that following the risen Christ, we're moving to the perfect life that we are to have. The sacred scripture tells us, both in life and in death, we are the Lord's. So what we're saying here is that the Lord allows us to be alive even when death is apparent to us. It means that he's going to allow us to live a life that is transitioned into perfection instead of seeing it come to its end. So when we think of Jesus saying that why he died for us is that we may have life again, it is to show us that he is truly the Lord and Master of both of our death and of our life. So how often do we live our earthly life thinking of it as beyond our death? I think we always look at our earthly life and say we're working up towards our death. You know, we take account of what we're doing. But really what we want to say in the resurrection is to say we're already living the fullness of life, and death is only going to be the transition that we want to be prepared to make in order that we can share in that joy and that glory. So when we look at this whole passage, we realize that being the master of ourselves, or even desiring the world for ourselves, we lose out on following the shepherd, not just through our earthly path, but following him as we watch him ascend into heaven. Follow him as he calls us to that new place that he has created. And that only comes when we walk with the Spirit, and that death is just a bridge and passageway between this life and the life that is to come. And in my illness, it helps me to realize the truth of the matter is I don't know how many days I have or how many years I have. But it really doesn't matter anymore, because I'm more concerned about being a part of the living Christ, because he has already conquered death.